You know, sometimes it feels like prehistoric amphibians were doing everything but living like an amphibian. A few of them were even the original users of some famous reptile strats, like seymouria from the early Permian, who was so good we actually confused it for a reptile once. At first glance, bro doesn't look too exceptional at about 2 feet long and weighing only a few pounds. However, the skeleton looked like it was put through sauropod strength training and didn't look like it belonged to someone who was just chilling at the bottom of a lake. Seymouria had a large, swollen backbone with short muscular limbs that were way more prepared to handle the brutal gravity nerf that was shutting down some of its relatives. It also had a much heavier skull held lower to the ground like the reptiles of the time, and it was so thick that it might have been able to spam headbutts on its enemies. So clearly seymouria is a tougher amphibian than most, but the detail that convinced everyone that it was living almost all its time on land was that its ears were prepared to deal with sound outside the water. You just don't get an ability like that for nothing. It low-key wanted to leave, and the only time it absolutely had to go back was when it was time to lay its eggs. There was also more than enough food on land for it to hunt, including the entire microwave class, like insects, smaller vertebrates, and some plants. But the fact it could only lay eggs underwater and even had a larval stage kept it in the amphibian category, no matter how hard it tried to be a reptile. By the way, there are levels to this. Seymouria is light work. There were some amphibians that looked like straight up crocodiles, and some could even pass as snakes with their appearance. And then there's guys like Diplocalus, who honestly don't fit anywhere except the Pokedex.